Okay, so I haven't actually done one of these in a long time, but oh, forgot. I'm Enrique, and welcome. And let me draw your attention for a little bit. This is a sketchbook session, and what this is I grabbed a sketchbook, and I'm gonna go through every single page of it with you guys. I am gonna you're gonna see my process essentially, like how this is normally how I sketch in my own sketchbook. And that's kind of what I want to convey in this video. I think this is page 24, and I'm gonna fill this whole thing. It's gonna be one video per page. So right now I'm just doodling. I'm scribbling around. This is more of an idea generation thing, and what I do is I scribble to the point where I am trying to kind of find what it is that I'm into in the moment. And normally these are based entirely on kind of the whims of, how do you say, usually what's in my mind. So lately Game of Thrones is finishing up, and so that's on my mind a lot, so I put a dragon in there. I'm drawing a lot of women lately, so I put a female head, and I drew like a tank-like thing, and then possibly another tank-like or tank-like thing. At this point, I don't know what details I'm going to put in. So a lot of it has to do with searching. It would have to do with searching for what kind of shapes and what kind of design language that you like. I encourage you to do the exact same thing with your sketchbook. Obviously, there's a time for formal practice. You're kind of, you're practicing what you know and how you know it, and you want to improve and so on. But I think part of improving is chilling out as well, pulling back, and then kind of seeing what you can do with no reference. And that's kind of what I consider these as well, like a test of what I can do just straight from my mind. And the more of those that you can do, kind of the better you'll feel about it. You'll start feeling these really, you'll start getting more confidence, essentially, this confidence base. Another thing is I use pen. I use the Faber, no, what is that pen I use? It is the Zebra F301. It's a fine point. That's the thing. It's SB fine point. If it's not fine point, it's just a regular ballpoint pen. This is a ballpoint pen though, but I get it anywhere in Office Depot if you're in the States. If not, I can put a link to the Amazon link. But extremely cool. And going into the tank pattern here, putting another head in the background as well. Again, a lot of searching. Unfortunately, my hand's in the way, but I pull back every now and then to try to reveal that. I'm thinking of kind of an armored soldier, and that has to do again with seeing shapes, kind of similar to a Rorschach pattern. When you look at a Rorschach pattern in psychologist's office, right? I don't know if they do that anymore, but you look at it and you think of what does this generally look like? What is the first thing that pops into your head when you do that? And you're kind of doing that with your own thoughts. I'm doodling and I'm saying, what does that look like? And that looked like a guy with a horned helmet on to me. Going in more, I'm thinking of the material that it's made of. So it's kind of a metallic material. But it's not shiny, it's dull, but it is a hard edge. And a lot of that stuff comes out because I'm not gonna completely cross-hatch this entirely. A lot of this is gonna be mostly line art with a little bit of shading and a little bit of emphasis, right? So this is something I don't talk about. I should make a video about it. And I think I did talk about it in past videos. Where do you emphasize where's your importance of emphasis on like where the focal point's going to be, right? I have had videos on focal points, but when you're drawing something and it's only line art, where is your focus going to be placed? Usually it's going to be where like in a painting, it's going to be where the darkest dark meets the lightest light. When you're using so much line like this, it's going to be where the darkest line kind of butts up against kind of like against the whitest area, but usually you're pushing down the hardest dark. And then putting her hair here, kind of thinking of like a flowing S hair. So in the comments, I want you to kind of go over what do you normally sketch when you sketch on your own? Do you sketch monsters? Do you have creatures? Do you sketch people? Do you sketch portraits? Do you sketch people you know? What do you sketch on your own? And that's going to tell you a lot of where your kind of instincts are. Where is your instinctive where do your instinctive abilities take you? And your instinct is based from experience. So probably what you've been drawing the most, or what's been on your mind the most, is what's going to come out when you sit down there with no reference and just start doodling. Going in here over the lines, and I am going to try to make some of the overlapping happen. I guess I'm thinking of currently what it's looking at is I'm thinking of like maybe movie posters where, you know, things don't make factual sense, right? The head's not that big compared to a tank. You're thinking of kind of vignettes of different different things. And these can get pretty wacky too. I made a really giant one that was pretty insane at one point. Going in here to the dragon head, and dragon head is cool, and I had a whole video entirely on that, on how to draw a dragon. Going into the eye, like I was saying, usually the focus is in the eye, because when you look at like a creature or a dragon, usually you're looking into their eyes. Kind of like when you look at people, right? You tend to look into their eyes first. Now I'm going over this robotic thing, and I think this mildly comes from Hellboy, the movie, that recent one that came out that bombed and didn't do that well. I mean, I didn't hate it. I mean, I didn't like it either, but it was, you know, it was cool to look at. If you're an artist, I would say go look at that new Hellboy movie. I would just say watch it when it comes out on Netflix or something, or you know, watch a streaming of it. I wouldn't say it's worth buying or anything like that, but it is a cool journey in terms of art and concept art. Kind of very similar to the second Hellboy movie from like years ago. I think it was, what, 2007 or something. But yeah, try to think about. I would say I would watch it for that. It had amazing concept art, but in that new movie, they had a house that had legs on it, very similar to anime and manga. And I guess this is just what was in my head. I was thinking of like some sort of, I don't know, walking outhouse or something like that, you know, whatever that thing is. And I was also thinking of Dragon Ball, I guess. That popped up in my mind for the kind of design of the buildings. When you look at a Dragon Ball, a lot of their buildings are round, you know, have a very round shape. Like Capsule Corp stuff. Going back to Dragon, I'm also bouncing back and forth. Something that people talk to me about a lot would be, how do you get over the boredom? And I'm going to make an entire video of that as well. How do you get over being bored? And I'm going to just go into it now, but I will make a whole video on the whole thing. If you're bored during drawing. Look, I get it. Sometimes you're going to... Some parts of this can get... when you're doing it, it can get kind of boring. But honestly, I don't really feel that much anymore. There are certain things I do, but... if you're process oriented, nothing's going to be boring. There's a great book called Flow, and I'm going to mention this in the video. It's Flow. They go over and they interview, I think, about 8,000 people that do menial jobs, you know, like cleaning or just jobs that you think are boring, and you know, or just artists. You know, just they go over so many types of people, and they came up with a list of 8 things that they all had in common. And these are ideas that you can, you know, kind of start to make part of your thinking process. And it's literally one of the biggest things that's helped me ever in drawing, was this book that's not even dedicated to artists. It's a book that's literally just dedicated to kind of how do you do anything that can be boring? How can you be content mowing the lawn? Or, you know, that book. And I've heard it maybe 5 or 6 times already, and every single time I hear it, it helps me so much more with drawing. Because what used to happen to me was I used to get bored with the, like, rendering, you know. Sometimes I love it. I don't know. I've changed my mind a little bit on it in terms of, like, oh, now I have to shade this entire thing. Like, the fun part to me currently would be the line art. But I started getting over that because, you know, for a lot of the tips they gave in that book, Flow, I listened to an audiobook. I thought that was easier. It's the audio quality, it's not that great, but the content is what you have to pay attention to. I'll link that in the description because that was such an amazing book, and I want to do an entire video just on that book, how cool it is. But I'll give you one of the tips. One of the tips they talked about in that book was create small achievable goals. And they were saying, so if you're mowing the lawn, just say like, you know, like micro goals. Say like, I'm going to, you know, my goal is to get that corner of the lawn as short as I can. You know, let's just say you think of an arbitrary, you know, it's this short, and I'm gonna completely get every blade of grass that short. You know, something like that. So if you compare that to drawing, for me, with rendering, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna render that eye out completely, and that's like a micro goal. Once I get that, I'm gonna move on to the jaw. Move on. It sounds like a silly thing, but you start to be content with the process-oriented type of thing. You know, the reward is actually doing it. That's actually the reward. The reward's actually that we're drawing, not so much that we're after this like finished product. You know, to rush it through. Because the ironic thing is when you rush something to get it done, it turns out worse. You like doing it less, and it actually takes longer usually, which is insane. So, enjoying what you're doing. If you enjoy the actual drawing process, you know, maybe you've lost sight of that yourself. Maybe you don't enjoy drawing as much as you used to when you first started out. There's another book called, I think I'm reading it currently. It's called Predictably Irrational. And Predictably Irrational, they talk about a concept of like when you're doing something for yourself, how enjoyable it is, and then when you start doing it for work, it's just not fun anymore, even though it's technically the exact same thing. And talk about what is that? What is changing in your mind there? But yeah, so just that is pretty much those two books. I'll put those two books in the description, like I said. I'm an audiobook guy, by the way, right, guys? I'm not a book guy. I don't really read that much. I feel like I need to multitask, so sometimes I'll draw while I'm hearing these audiobooks, or I would say sometimes, every time I'm doing that. All right, going back, going through the rest of this. I'm just kind of picking out little markings, and a lot of it is kind of making it presentable at every stage. So some people, and I don't work like this. I don't think I've usually almost never work like this. Even though this isn't my sketchbook, it would be a good idea to build better habits. It would be maybe make it presentable at any point. So if I leave it like now, like people will understand vaguely what it is. Where if I spend all my time only on that dragon first, it'll just look like a dragon surrounded by lines, you know. So you want to bring up the whole thing evenly to some extent. They bring up the entire drawing to an even extent. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video, guys. I really do appreciate you watching this. A lot of this was, again, kind of seeing how I do stuff. If you really like the way I draw, or if you really like, or if you need maybe improvement in your own drawing, go to my Patreon. On one of the levels of my Patreon, I literally kind of go over your drawings. You can send them in to me, and I'm going to do a layover of them and correct them and be like, hey, you should do this. And I'm going to take a look at your body of drawings, and I'm going to be like, hey, you need work on this generally. So if you find that to be cool, go check that out on my Patreon. I'll link it below. Like I said, if you are a fan of what I do. Everybody needs a coach, I noticed. Everybody needs, not a coach, but everybody needs like, oh yeah, a coach, I guess. I have mentors. I have people that I look up to that have really helped me with drawing. Like the thing I told you about with flow and helping my drawing, that didn't come from me. That came from my mentor. I have a mentor for everything, and you become who your mentor is. So you become who's helping you out in the long run. So I picked someone that draws similar to me, or drew in a way that I wanted to draw, and I kind of followed that person. And you'd have several of them. It doesn't have to be one person per se, and they would help me out. And you kind of become that person. So if you do like how I draw and you want to essentially draw exactly like this, then reach out to me, because it's much easier. Like, how much is cutting time worth to you? For me, it's worth everything. I'd rather get better faster. That was my goal in the beginning, and even now I'm mostly currently, and I'll tell you where I'm at with my goals. I'm mostly trying to improve my painting ability. I want to do my backgrounds. I'm reaching out to more people that draw that kind of stuff, and I'm kind of asking for their advice on that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm searching more for like color theory and things like that. If you're, and you could be the reverse, by the way. One of my friends, she's really great at painting, but her technical drawing is not that great. So she is kind of doing the other way around. She needs her technical drawing to get better, and that will translate into her painting and vice versa. So if you feel your technical drawing's not that good, that's the best thing I'm at, in my opinion. That's my bag. I've trained a ton of people, like I mean a ton of people over the years in person, but this is the first time I started doing it on the internet. But in person, I've been training people for like 5 or 6 years. But I just took it to Patreon because I thought it'd be easier, it'd be more convenient, and I can reach out to people who have actually been watching me for about 5 years on my YouTube channel. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm going to draw the line here, and that's my catchphrase, by the way. I'm going to draw the line here, and I will see you in the next video. Links are in the description, and yeah, I got a pretty cool thing coming up. I have a Sonic challenge coming up. If you're still watching this video, I have a Sonic challenge that I'm going to put up most likely tomorrow. So talk to you soon.